Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Caspian and I read a lot of books, and in this video I'm gonna do a little reading update for you. And as you might have seen from the title of this video, I'm gonna talk about one with a bunch of stars and then one DNF. So what I tried to do in my this year is I try to do one TBR video for each month and one wrap up, and in the wrap up I just, as you probably saw in my latest video, I try to just go through each book shortly, like talk about the books that I liked and the books I liked less, and what series I'm currently reading, and then some statistics at the end. And I want that video to be as short as possible, because I read a lot of books. I think I read a lot of books. I read 10 books in January. So now it's February. February? I want to say February, but I think it's wrong. So it's the month of Valentine's. So I'm going to talk about this one first. The Final Gambit, Riddles Upon Riddles, Secrets Upon Secrets, Winner Takes It All, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Inheritance games. Yeah, the Inheritance games. So the first book was the Inheritance game, the other was the Hawthorne Legacy, and the final one was the Final Gambit. And then I think there are two more books after this one, the Hawthorne Brothers and something with games. So this is the third book, and I want to say that I enjoyed this as much as the first one. There are a few things that I liked more about this one, because in the first two books, one thing that kind of bothered me, I'm not going to talk about the plot that much because I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm just going to say what I liked and what I didn't like with this book. So it's a 4.5 stars. I'm going to put a 4-star on Goodreads, I think. Or I did. Did I? I think so. So the one reason it's not a 5-star is because I can't really see myself reading it again. So, and that's kind of one of my criteria, an important criteria for a 5-star. So I really enjoyed this book. It's a I might want to read it again. I'm not sure, but anyway, there's a feeling missing that makes me not be able to give it a 5-star rating. So what I did like about this, I liked it more than the second book, and even though I gave the second book like 4 stars. And so I knew I wanted to give this a little bit more, but not 5 stars. So I did enjoy, one of my favorite things in this book was the growth of the characters and the growth of the relationships, because in the first book there was just a big mess because she was being thrown into this family and being the heiress, and it was just, they were trying to find their place. In the second book there was a lot of focus, what I felt was unnecessary focus on the relationships, and they were unnecessarily messy. That's what I'm getting at. Maybe the focus on relationships was not unnecessary, but the messiness was so unnecessary. So, and it took some focus away from the mystery of the book, which I was trying to enjoy. And I did enjoy in the second book. In this book, I felt that I could enjoy the game more because the relationships had kind of settled, and the relationships were strong. There were, and each character's personality came forth more in this book, and the differences between them, because in the first book I could barely tell them apart, all of the Hawthorne brothers, and in the second book I was kind of able to do that, even though I thought it was so messy. And in this book I felt like I could finally pinpoint each and every one of them. So I really enjoyed this one, and this is the first one of the 3 that I read in English. The other ones I read in Swedish, and I must say I really enjoyed the language. I did enjoy the Swedish translation as well. The translator is one that I read a lot of. When I see that she has translated anything, I'm like, oh good, because I know it's gonna be an easy read. So I was kind of hesitant going into this, because you can't find it in Swedish yet. So I was kind of hesitant going into it, wondering if the language was gonna mess it up. And in the beginning, there were some things that I was like, I'm supposed to know what this is. I'm really supposed to know what this is. And I had to look some words up to really get into the story. So it did kind of hinder my flow, but not for long. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I recommend this series. So I'm looking forward to reading the next one, the Hawthorne brothers, but it's not is it available? Yeah, it is available at my library in English. So I'm looking forward to that, but it will be, at the earliest, it will be in April. Now it's February. Why can't I say that? So that's a win, I think. And then this one is so heavy. Why is this so heavy? It's like a brick. This is When the Moon Hatched. And the thing is, I was really looking forward to reading this, because I DNF'd this. So if you don't want to know why, you can stop watching now. If you want to know why, if you want to hear me ramble for a few minutes about why, there's not going to be a lot of rambling, I don't think. But I just have like a few solid reasons. So, first of all, I was looking forward to reading this, because I started reading it like in September, somewhere in September, I think. And this is a book that is so new to our library that we can only have it for a short amount of time, so like 2 weeks at a time, and there's a big queue. So I put myself in the queue for it, on the waiting list, like somewhere in maybe May last year, June, and then I got it in September because it was my turn, and then I just felt so stressed. And I realized that I really wanted to take my time, because it was like you're being thrown into the story, and in this book, the glossary is in the first few pages of the book. So there's like a glossary at the beginning of all the words and all the creatures and some names, etc. So I kind of barely got through that part in those. So I think it took me a few days to wrap my head around all of that information, and then I had like maybe a week left, and I was like, I can't do this right now. There's so many other things going on. So I opted to return it, and I put myself back on the waiting list, and I got the book now in February. And of course there's a 2-week loan on it again. So I knew I had to be kind of quick about it. So I started reading from where I left off. And it was easier to get into the book now. It was like it's meshed into my brain. So I just had to like look up a few things, like which dragon was which and that sort of thing. But I did get into the book quite easily. So that wasn't a problem. I did, however, not enjoy the writing style of this one. I want to say I find it excessive, and I find it unnecessarily what's the word, unnecessarily complicated. And it might also be because it's my second language, but I'm just not into, I'm not that into fantasy books having like the complete, it's not like they have a complete language of their own. They have there are some aspects where there are another language in like when they do some kind of magic, but they have like their own words for what a day is. And I'm not, I yeah, they have, I think they have they have different, their own words. This book has its own words for different phases of time, or like periods of time. The problem is it's not explained. Even in the glossary in the beginning, it's like it doesn't say how long an aurora is, just that it's from the rise to the fall. And I was like, okay, so one aurora with a slumber after the fall and before the rise must be a day. But then they have another word for day. And I'm like, what? And then they have phases, and they talk about how old people are in phases, and I'm like, is that years? But maybe it's not years, because if an aurora isn't a day, and it doesn't say how many days an aurora is, how am I supposed to know what the a phase is, etc., etc. And it just, that's one of the things that just bugs the hell out of me. And you know, I tried to just turn that aspect off and not care. I'm like, okay, I don't understand this, so I'm just gonna turn it off for now and see if I can just go through the book and not, and just being like, okay, an aurora, sure, whatever, you know. And I did manage that to some extent. I did manage that because I did get through like 250 pages of this, and I know I read 41%, and this is a 700-page book. So I read a big chunk. So I didn't DNF it lightly. So what actually made me DNF it was I stopped caring, because there was a period of time, like after about 30%, maybe 25-30% of the book, where just it seemed like nothing really, it stagnated. The story stagnated in a weird way, and I don't want to like spoil the book, but too much. But there's like, the main character is captured, and during the captivity, even though there are things happening, and she is kinda, yeah, she's on trial, is she gonna die or not, etc. There's still some kind of weird stagnation in the story, and I'm just sitting there trying to read and just wondering where it's going, and I realized that there's nothing to look forward to. It's like I don't know where the story is going. It's just a limbo kind of feeling. And so I put it down for a while. And I mean, like, I put it down and made some lunch or whatever. And then, this was yesterday. And then I came back to it, and because I was like, but I really did enjoy like the first 20% of the book. So I was like, I'm gonna give it another go. So I sat down with it again, managed to read 1%. So from 40% to 1% of the book. And I was like, no. Because then something happened, and I realized I don't like it. And it had to do with the romance of the book, because there's a romance in the book, and it's just not, in my perspective, it's not plausible, possible, relatable, or even like, what's the word? It just doesn't feel possible. And you know, I don't like when characters go from one state of not being together. Like, there's no chance they're gonna be together because everything is just wrong and everything is off and they just hate each other or whatever. And then all of a sudden they can't take their hands off each other. I'm like, no, I'm not. That's a trope I don't like. So it might be that it's just not my cup of tea and it's not my trope. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, if you enjoy when two people are at odds with each other and really hating each other for like valid reasons, and then go from that to the opposite. If you like that, then be my guest, read this book. But for me, that's just very toxic, and I'm not for it in any way or another. So one thing I did like, I'm gonna end this rambling that I didn't think I was gonna do. I'm gonna end this rambling by saying one thing that I did like. I did like the male main character's respect and his respect for the female main character and his non-toxic behaviors towards her. Like, he said that he would never enjoy doing something with someone that wasn't into it. So he doesn't make advances, he doesn't do anything towards anyone, and he's really caring, and he really feels like he's got like empathy and somewhere along the line, at least in the first 40% of the book, it feels like he's got a heart, and the heart in the right place, and he doesn't feel egocentric, he doesn't feel toxic in any way. She does. So I think that's one thing I did like, and I wish I would have seen more of his point of view. Maybe I would have read it, maybe I would have gotten further into the book if I would have had his point of view a bit more, maybe. So this is a DNF for me. I did have like some quotes that I wanted to save. If I had gotten through the book, I would have saved some quotes. I'm gonna look through it and see if there are some worth saving anyway. Just nice quotes, but probably not. So yeah, that's my reading update for this time, and I am really enjoying the book I'm reading right now. I started reading it at the same time as when the Moon Hatched, and so when I didn't like that one, I had another one to brighten my mood, fortunately. So yeah, these are going back to the library tomorrow. Happy reading. I hope you had a more happy reading than I did with this one. So, but it's a good, I don't give stars to book I don't finish. So, stars wise, this week has been a win. Kinda, right? Happy reading, and I will see you in my next video, or your next video, if I follow you. So, yeah. Tjingeling.